The other subject, which is commercial law, what are the subject that will be discussed under it? We have, it covers corporation law. Okay, and well, this is very important, especially if you are joining or trying to put up a new corporation. We have now a new corporation code which now allows a single person to be a sole proprietor, okay, or single person or one person corporation. Before, it requires five, not less than five incorporators to put up a corporation. But now, okay, to encourage others, let's say if you have money, you can put up your own corporation. It will be in your own name. Okay, so there are laws that also attached to it, and that is the corporation. What are the cases that maybe that the court normally entertain, or what are those cases that they normally settled? These are duties of the directors. Okay, like there's no board resolution, but the president execute it. Okay, and there is a contract entered into without prior approval from the board of directors. Okay, so that is what invalid, but that is what they normally do. Okay, so a president sometimes, because of excitement, okay, thinking all the while that he has all the power, executes a contract without board approval. Okay, and what happened? There will be a piercing of a corporate veil. Okay, so in our school, I am an officer of the faculty association, but they keep on asking, you have to apply. I really keep on demanding that we have to apply the corporation code. Okay, like if you're a board of director, you have to all of your all of the what's that? All of the transaction must be approved by the board. Okay, the president. Let's say there are now there are times when the executive branch and the legislative branch are merged into one. So if the board decides this way, the executive branch, including the president, you should execute. Okay, they left no other choice but
Sir, you, I believe po you are muted in so
for a while.
wala mo natanggal.
Okay. So can you hear me now? Am I now audible? Can you? Is my audio clear now? Okay, so we go into the well, that's corporation code. The basic or most common conflict that arise is the executive branch executing a certain contract without prior approval of the board. Okay, so in relation to local government code, as I have discussed last time, it's similar actually, the duties of the councilors to the board of directors. Only that the councilors, city, municipal, or even provincial board, which is the legislative branch, is also the same as the board of directors. They also act as the legislative branch of the corporation. The executive branch is the
Sir,
press. Yes.
na-stop na po.
Okay, we'll continue. Now, so let's proceed. So the normal common case actually of the corporation code is the executive branch, okay, and even in, as I've said, in local corporation, local government code, executive branch executes certain contract without prior approval. One example in what happened in Capitol, and the other one happened in Bohol, in Corella, Bohol. Okay, I don't know if you've been there, but I have not. I've been in that place, but I can only recall it when I read cases that mentions a certain municipality. In Corilla, Bohol, what happened was that there was a board. There was no board. There was a board resolution. Okay, allowing a contract to contact, I think, a dam in Corilla or certain projects by Phil Construct, okay, consider that case. Although approved by the board, there was certain minutes, a quorum, and a majority. Okay? If you look at it, it appears that there is no illegality. Unlike, I think, in Capito, where there was no really, when the previous, I think it was in the previous administration, or even way back, where they plan to build a certain building, a legislative building, but it was not, there was no board approval. Or if there was no board approval, or if there was board approval, but it doesn't meet, there are technicalities that appears, unlike the case of Corella municipality, where it appears really there was no illegality. But if you dissect and read the corporation code, you will know that there is a certain number of councillors to approve a certain contract that incurs monetary obligation of the municipality. Without that monetary obligation, the requirement is basically majority. But, as I mentioned, if there is a corresponding monetary obligation, the requirement in the local government code is not majority. Okay? It's higher than majority. I think 2/3 votes of those who are, majority of the councilors, not the majority of those who are present during the meeting. It's like this so that you'll understand better. Yet, let's say there is a quorum simply because the majority of the councilors, majority only, were there. Okay? It may not be complete, but as the rule, if the majority is arrived, um, they can discuss the business or the agenda. Okay? Let's say out of eight, there were five who were present. Okay, it's majority, they can proceed, right? Three voted on the law pass. It's also a majority which is valid. Okay? It appears to be valid, right? But if the law proposed has a corresponding monetary obligation of the government to a certain, for a certain project, the requirement is not the majority of those who are around, but the majority of those councillors, even if they were not around. Okay? Not only those who were present during the meeting. Okay? That is what happened. So, basically, it appears to be okay, but if you look into the local government code, if there is a corresponding obligation of the municipality, then the majority refers to the majority of the councillors, not the majority of those who are present during the session. Okay? So, again, also, how about incorporation code in relation to that? Okay, same rules apply, but um, sometimes the chief executive, without consulting the board or without even board approval, will simply enter into a contract. Now, what happened? I am also an officer of a subdivision before. Okay, so I been in board again, and then on the executive branch. Okay, for many years, every year I am in that position as board of director, or board of trustee for non-stock corporation or stock and stock corporation, board of directors, CNU, board of regents, okay, for on government offices. Now, so what happened? What will happen to the contract if it's entered into without board approval? The contract remains to be valid, or the other term for that is voidable. It's not void ab initio. What is void ab initio? From the beginning of the contract, it's already void. But voidable which is applicable to contracts entered into by the executive branch without board approval is voidable, meaning it is valid until annulled the by the board itself. Okay? So, meaning it may be valid. Okay? It is valid, but if the one of the director would say that it would be declared invalid, and then majority voted to be invalid, then that will be illegal. And what is the consequence? The consequence is that the person, the president, the executive branch who executed the contract without board approval will be personally liable. What do you mean by personal liable? He is the one who's going to pay for the obligation that resulted to the damage of the corporation. Okay? So, what is the result? There will be now a piercing, as I've said, piercing of a corporate fiction. Piercing of a corporate fiction. A pierce. You have to cut the relationship of the corporation itself and the person who signs the contract. It will not be the money of the corporation that will pay the obligation, but it will be the person who is going to pay personally. As you can see, when we say obligation, if it is board approved, meaning it is the obligation of the corporation because it is an act of the corporation itself through board. The board are the representative. Okay? The board of the representatives of the stockholders. So if there will be obligation and there was no board, then it will be the person who will be held liable. But if there's board approval, majority signs it, then it is the act of a corporation. So meaning if there is a liability, then the asset of the corporation will pay. Now we go into the security code. It's actually the rules on buying of certain stocks. Okay? So, corporations are sold in a publicly, right? Jollibee, for example. Of course, there are rules to it, and that is found in the Securities Regulation Code. Okay? So, if it is publicly listed, you can actually buy certain items. You can buy their stocks. Some of the even some students now or even faculty are doing into this kind of business where they sells stocks. Okay, they buy and sell stocks. How about insurance? Insurance corporation simply means the well, there are things that you cannot pay when the needs arises. Okay, like you know, you don't know the future of your life. You don't know what will happen next or what will happen in the next few days, right? And there may be accident later on or get sick. So it's better to insure, to make it sure that on the day when it arises, when the risk arises, you will not have any trouble at all. So does what should the what law that will prevent you from doing that? We have the insurance law. Okay, insurance. Okay, but the problem sometimes of insurance, the insurance company or the insurer will have so many excuses when the obligation now arises. Okay, and sometimes when they will be asked what's the meaning of insurance or the insurance company, or in Tagalog, by the way, of insurance, kagawaran ng pangkasiguruan. Way pangkasiguruan. Kay when the need arises, you will probably be wondering, or although you keep on paying the premium, the monthly contribution that you have to pay to the insurance company, so that you'll be entitled to certain you'll be entitled to the insurance pay. And then when the needs arises, you will be asking, babayaran ba kaya ako ng insurance? Then your answer would be, siguro, babayaran ka, meaning you're not sure. Okay? So, but anyway, the insurance company is there for you to receive a certain compensation when the needs arises, or the risk insured against arises. The risk insured against is what you think might happen to you, and that should be paid by the insurance company. Now we go into the other laws, the banking laws. Okay, so that's still under commercial laws, banking laws. Um, yeah, you know, these are very useful. Let's say you're going to import products from Japan, but you cannot communicate to them. How are you going to do it? You go to banks. Okay, the banks will issue letter credit through, again, another law, the instrument negotiable instrument law, or the credit transactions, where a bank can communicate to their branch abroad and then buy that product using that bank abroad to import the products here in the Philippines. Okay, um, on the obligation that you're going to pay the loan to the banks uh, here in the Philippines. So, in other words, you transact only to banks. Okay, let's say you're going to buy Toyota in Japan. Okay, so the bank there in Japan, which has a connection with the banks here in the Philippines, let's say BPI also in Japan, will buy that and then transport the vehicles here, but it will now be in the name of the Bank of the Philippines, a bank, BPI banks in the Philippine branch. Okay, so once it's sold, you have to pay it to the bank in the Philippines, not necessarily going to Japan and buy that product. So checks are also discussed in banking laws, like when what will happen if the signature is forged in a banknotes. Okay, a check, for example, the signature was copied because you left your your checkbook in an open in at the table. Okay, and somebody get portion of it, put their 1 million pesos payable to the order of certain person, to the bearer, then name of the one who steals. Bearer is the one who brings, and then all the for easy transaction in banks, you will not be bringing money, put it in your pocket, right? All you have to do is to put it in the bank and then just issue a check. Oh, I need this 1,000 pesos payable to this person. Name the person, put it there. And then give it to him, and then that person will go to the bank and withdraw the monies that he puts for easy transaction. Okay? Now, what if it is forged? Okay? So again, if it's the liability of the bank. Why? Because bank is the is has imbued with public interest, so the trust of the public must be very high. So I think the the duty of the bank is highest, so that people will still trust them. So certain, if there is a failure of the bank to identify the signature of the drawer, it's the obligation of the bank. So it's the liability of the bank, not the person. Okay, because it's imbued with public interest, and it's because of the fiduciary nature of banking industry. Fiduciary nature. So it's like father and son relationship, that they really have to take care and make sure that the signature is not forged. So if they fail to identify the signature, then it's their obligation. Negotiable instrument. What are found in the negotiable instrument? The warehouse receipt. Let's say you have a a an, a certain products that you don't have, you cannot put it or deliver it right away. You have to put it in a certain warehouse. So just like banks, so the person assigned, they will just give or deliver the amount or the goods if someone is bringing with him the receipt, the warehouse receipt. Okay, so we go into criminal law. You already understand it. These are very simple laws. Okay, there are only two basic division. One is the revised penal code and special laws. So when we say revised penal code, these are laws that are found in book 1 and 2. Okay, um, crimes, enumerations of the crimes which are listed. So all the crimes, in fact, all the things that you do now, and then if there are if there is a violation of the law, the violation are found actually in the revised penal code. It is the list of the laws that a person might be charged. And then special laws. Special laws are, although it's not actually a violation of the natural law, but um, they make it into criminal. Okay, like having a gun is not crime in itself. But if you specify it that bringing a gun in a public place is criminal, it's called special law. Okay? The revised penal code is simply violations, basic violation. It's a crime in itself. But especially, it's not a crime, except that it is the law making it into crime. Okay? So that's the basic distinction. So it's 8:53. I still have to prepare for the next class. But as I've said, I have